is working on another project at the same time, and so he could very well be on later. But for now, if Secretary of State Duncan, if he wouldn't mind opening us in prayer, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll see everyone. It's good to see everyone today. We'll go ahead and get started by going before our Creator. Iski on Natlana. Iski on Natlana og gidota galan de he galan to you guys este. That's it okay. Isteli iski gala quote. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to meet. We ask, Lord, that you would let us make the right decisions, Lord, and let us be able to gather our thoughts completely, Lord, and fully so that we can better serve each other. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to serve our nation and our people, and we thank you for making us Cherokee, Father. Lord, we ask these things in your name. Amen.
So welcome, everyone. I will start out by saying that we have a couple of new people on here, and that ask about the purpose of the committee. And this at-large advisory committee is made up of 4 individuals that are appointed by the chief to be on this committee and help represent the at-large community organizations across the country that sorry about that. Anyway, that they can represent to this committee and to the as an advisory committee to the chief. So if you have issues that you want to bring up to the chief or to CCO, then through representatives is a great way to do it. But you can feel free to contact us directly if you'd like. So we have on the committee that's present today, we have Bruce West from the Sacramento area. We have Cynthia Ruiz, who's from the LA area. And we have Patsy Edgar, who is from Georgia. So, I haven't seen Wade McAllister from Houston yet, but he's a representative for that area. So each one of these individuals have taken on sharing information with all of the community organizations in their area. So, CO Deputy.
CO Kevin.
Welcome.
How are you, sir?
Great,
Yes.
thanks. We I hope you're not out in this heat.
No, I just got finished talking to our JOM program here. Are putting on a little program for all the JOM tutors across the Cherokee Nation Reservation at our local schools, and that resource is very important. Brings in a lot of impact aid dollars and different things like that. So been speaking to them, but just very grateful for everyone to be able to join today, and just very, very appreciative. So what do, Kevin?
Oh, great, thanks. And we asked the Deputy Secretary of State Duncan to open us in prayer earlier, so we've already taken care of that, Deputy. And now we'd like to hear from Principal Chief Hoskin.
Kevin, thank you, and welcome everyone. I'm glad to be gathering up with you again virtually for our at-large advisory board meeting. 4 years ago, we started this, and it's been very helpful to me and the deputy chief. And I'll mention more about this in a moment. But as we start the second term, we start anew, and I think we look at new things. I'll mention some new initiatives, but it also behooves us all to sort of look back on what we've been doing the last 4 years and see if there's ways to improve it, see if it's still meeting our goals. And I think that's true of this committee, and that's not any sort of a criticism. It's just, let's take the opportunity to assess where we are and say, do we need to, sort of change the approach, change the content, or make sure that we're living up to what your expectations are. But I can tell you from my standpoint, it's been very valuable to have this interaction, not just for me directly, but for the staff and other leaders that join you. And I hope it's been meaningful to you as well. So just to touch on a couple of things. We had the inauguration. The deputy chief and I are very appreciative of the opportunity to serve another term. And of course, with staggered terms, there was a number of council members who were sworn in, some to continue in office and some as new council members. We have 3 new council members. Are very excited to see how they settle into their new positions, and we can all work together on things that are of concern and interest to the Cherokee people. But the inauguration was, of course, very special to me personally, and again, I appreciate the opportunity to serve. But we're hitting the ground running. We really haven't rested since the election. The deputy chief and I have been working on second term matters and just doing the day-to-day work of governing. And we have, of course, Kim Teehee will give us a deeper dive on government relation matters of interest. But I'm just thinking about, just in the last couple of weeks, we've had consultations on energy in Indian country. Today, I'll be on a panel with the U.S. Department of the Interior talking about treaty rights, which is good. That's a welcome invitation by the U.S. Department of the Interior. It's always timely. I think for us, it's particularly timely because we're of course in the midst of asserting treaty rights, including our delegate to Congress, which is a push that we just have to continue to make. But anytime we can get in front of our federal partners, federal agencies, and talk about these issues, we should. But I do think you should take it as a good sign of progress that, the United States is dedicating some time to talk about treaties. This is one meeting, certainly not the last, but we're glad to be a part of it. In the fall, we'll have the National Congress of American Indians conference, and we always are engaged with that. Closer to home, and I don't know if this makes national news, given from my perspective, I kind of hope it doesn't make national news because I don't think it's a good look for the state of Oklahoma. We have some challenges with public education, from my perspective, attacks on public education that are politically driven. And it isn't just because I'm interested in that subject. It affects the Cherokee Nation. In the crosshairs politically is Tulsa Public Schools, and there's something going on today at the State Department of Education that will determine whether Tulsa Public Schools gets taken over or not. And so I disagree with that, but I think why I'm bringing this up, not just to share with you that I disagree with another politician in the state of Oklahoma, is that anytime something happens with public education in the state of Oklahoma, you better believe it has a big impact on Cherokees, because that's where most of the Cherokees that live in the region go to school. So that's why you see us engaged on matters of public education. So if you hear us talking about it, it's not only because there are political issues that we ought to be speaking out of, but because this really affects people and families and the economy of the region. With respect to the second term, I said we've just continued on, the deputy chief and I working, but it's a new term. And so we have made some changes in leadership. They're all good. And those who are leaving leadership are going on to other positions in which they'll serve Indian country or otherwise serve the Cherokee Nation. I do want to mention that we've got cabinet nominees coming up at an upcoming council meeting, and I've mentioned those publicly. And I'll probably put a link here in a moment in the chat if people are interested in learning more. If you don't already know, but I've nominated Chad Harsha as the Attorney General of the Cherokee Nation. He's currently the Secretary of Natural Resources. Our current Attorney General has just done an amazing job, Sarah Hill. She has been the Attorney General for this entire term, in which we have had issues that collectively as a team we faced, but she certainly has been on the forefront in a lot of ways, whether it's issues dealing with the pandemic, the legal aspects of that, whether it's the gaming compact fight that we were hit with immediately. McGirt certainly seizing those opportunities and navigating a lot of challenges and frankly threats to our sovereignty as we've exercised our sovereignty. She's leaving. She's going into the private sector, and I think that she should be proud. I'm proud, and I hope everybody's proud of the service that she's rendered. She'll continue, though, to be of service to Indian country and the Cherokee Nation, and as a private attorney, she'll do very well. Our Secretary of State, Tina Gloria Jordan, I've nominated her for the Supreme Court of the Cherokee Nation. There's a vacant seat as Justice Payden is resigning. He's focusing on his health. He's had just this long, wonderful career, and it's worth really examining the role he's played in a lot of aspects of Cherokee, the civic life of the Cherokee Nation, including work when he worked on Capitol Hill in the 1970s, when the Cherokee Nation and other tribes were really gaining strength by getting changes in federal Indian policy. He was a young, I think, lawyer at the time involved in that. So he's had a great career, deserves to focus on his health. Opens up a seat that I'm nominating Tina Glory Jordan for. That opens up an opportunity at the Secretary of State position. Shella Boland, who is a vice president at Cherokee Nation Businesses, somebody that is looked upon on our business side as a leader and works directly with our CEO, Chuck Garrett. She works on matters of business strategy and also economic development. She's going to be an excellent Secretary of State. I served as Secretary of State, as some of you may know, and I can tell you one of the blessings of serving as Secretary of State is that you've got a great team of very knowledgeable people to help you along the way. So Shella will come into a position in which we have such a robust government relations department led by Kim Teehee. We've got, I think, great program executives in those programs that fall under the Secretary of State. And with Shella's, I think, perspective from Cherokee Nation Businesses, looking at processes, looking at strategy, looking at how what we do impacts the economy, I think we're going to have a wonderful Secretary of State. Our Secretary of Natural Resources, as I said, Secretary Harsha, I've nominated him to the Office of Attorney General. Christina Carroll, who is his right hand in that department, I've nominated her. She's had, I think, a 14-year plus career with Cherokee Nation that's included experience in the grants program and experience in what used to be called the Law and Justice Department. And of course, she spent time in the Natural Resources Department as we've developed things like hunting and fishing opportunities and asserting hunting and fishing rights and doing more across the region in terms of being responsible when it comes to energy and sustainability. So she really is in line with a lot of the efforts we've already undertaken, and she'll have some new ideas in that position. Reappointing Joe Crittenden as the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Many of you know him from his service on the council as Deputy Chief. And of course, the last 4 years, he's been our Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Just today, we are going to help move in some veterans into a housing project that's near and dear to his heart. It's a veterans housing project here in Tahlequah. So his office has been very effective. He's been very effective, and he's been reappointed, hopefully confirmed by the council. And I anticipate that. Janice Taylor, our treasurer, I've reappointed her. I've had two treasurers, and they've both done a wonderful job during just incredibly momentous, dramatic times in the Cherokee Nation, where there's an influx of federal funding and then some uncertainty that comes with the economy. And of course, the pandemic response and recovery, and she's helped us navigate so well. She's a former member of the council, of course. Shannon Buell will continue as marshal. He's in the middle of his term. I mentioned Tina Glory Jordan, our Secretary of State, going to the Supreme Court. Last but not least, Kim Teehee is up for reappointment under the constitutional provision that governs how we appoint our delegate. And I can't impress upon you enough that even though it's been 4 years and we've not got her seated, we are not letting up. And part of not letting up is to meet our requirements under our Constitution to get her reconfirmed. I think she'll be reconfirmed unanimously. And it's so important because this is about a treaty right. It's about a sentence in one treaty. But for me, it's always been about every sentence in every treaty. And achieving success on this is a success for the idea that the country ought to be keeping its promise. So that rounds out the cabinet. I will mention that Todd Enlow, who runs our housing programs, my former chief of staff, will continue as my senior advisor. We've already mentioned Kanan Duncan elevated to the position of Deputy Secretary of State. Tara Lee Montgomery is someone you may not interact with much, given that her role is a bit more behind the scenes, is another Deputy Secretary of State. Will support Shella Boland, support the administration. Two very talented young Cherokees who are doing a great deal of work, have already done a great deal of work that's so positively impacted the Cherokee Nation. So that's the changes you'll see. I'm going to put a link in the box in case you want to read more about that. All this is subject to confirmation by the council. One I didn't mention is our chief of staff, who's not subject to confirmation, Corey Bunch, longtime education professional, somebody that the deputy chief and I rely on for so many reasons. He'll continue as chief of staff. The second term, of course, will include finishing up some really big projects that we are already in the midst of working on, including our $400 million hospital. But it'll include new initiatives. One initiative I want to mention here, and I think get some feedback on, not at the moment, because you need some time to sort of process what we're talking about. But we're going to launch something called the Gadugi Corps. And this is an idea that will enhance what we're doing on volunteerism and national service in the Cherokee Nation. Sean Crittenden, former council member, has come over to work in our education department as a deputy executive director. He's heading a new task force that was created by an executive order last week. Kane and Duncan, co-chair of that task force. There's a number of other wonderful Cherokees on there, including Donnie Squirrel is on there, Melissa Payne, our Freedman community liaison, Shelley Dreadfulwater in the education department is on there, and Kristen Thomas from the language department is on there. They're going to visit with stakeholders, visit with citizens, visit with council members, to identify what we're doing right now in terms of volunteering, what we're doing right now in terms of what we might deem national service, some period of work for the nation, or a program work where you're doing something in the community and the Cherokee Nation is paying you something to keep you involved in that, but also examining where we need to do more. One area that all of the areas I'm sure are interest to at-large citizens, but one area in particular is taking this idea of sister communities across the Cherokee Nation, at-large communities, and many of you are with organizations that have a sister community here at home, and enhancing that. So you can imagine an opportunity where some of these Gadugi Corps resources go to bringing you and your team of board members or several people, volunteers, to the Cherokee Nation for a period of time. I'm not talking about years or months. I'm talking about an intensive period of time in which you work on some project that your sister community is working on. Maybe it's working in the local community to help elders. Maybe it's helping kids. Maybe it's helping with sort of the physical plant of a community building, sort of getting it fixed up. Maybe there's some sort of project. But it does seem to me we've got a great deal of interest and enthusiasm about working together. That's what Gadugi means, but the government of the Cherokee Nation ought to get behind it with resources and some structure so that we're making sure we bring everybody along that wants to raise their hand and say, I want to help. We have a lot of people that want to help, but I think often at the Cherokee Nation, particularly when it comes to volunteers, we're not necessarily oriented or equipped to making that happen. And then, of course, I think we could do more to encourage people into some form of national service. All of this is kind of a blank slate. That's why we started with an executive order and a task force, but that task force will be something that will engage you, perhaps electronically through the Gadugi portal, perhaps in this kind of forum, for your ideas. I think particularly on the at-large engagement. Both council members are interested in this. I know Councilor Coates in particular has talked over the years about let's try to bring at-large leadership home, not only for the conference that we have annually, which is very important, but on some sort of involvement in the community. And, you know, the opposite could be true as well. And I think we have to think that through to the extent that there are things going on in your communities. Maybe we could go the other direction and send folks out. But I think the initial interest was we hear a lot from at-large leaders saying, we'd love to come home, but obviously you want to make the best use of what is really precious for all of us, which is our time. And so we want to look to the Gadugi Corps concept to build some sort of a program to do that. A lot of other initiatives the Deputy Chief and I have in mind. We are also looking to the council for their leadership and their ideas. And I think together this will be a wonderful term. And I think we're at a point in Cherokee history and life in which we have some opportunities to seize. And if we don't seize them now, we may look back with regret, one of which is revitalizing the Cherokee language. But I'll tell you what, the Deputy Chief went and helped a elder fluent speaker move into a new home the other day. And I know talking to him and some others, that just sort of restored us as what we're doing here is right. And what we're doing here in terms of a language preservation strategy that is holistic, that doesn't only train up little kids to learn Cherokee, but takes care of elders who know Cherokee, making all that come together feels like what we're doing. And I think in the next 4 years, that's one policy area that we can either achieve our mission or set us on a course where we're going to have a century of speaking Cherokee, or set us on a course in which we see the sunset on the Cherokee language. The latter is not going to happen. We're going to do the former. We're going to revitalize the Cherokee language. And I think we've got a great strategy and great people in place to do it, and we've got the resources to do it. Lastly, I'll be in Washington, D.C. this weekend. We're having a meeting with the D.C. area Cherokees, Capital City Cherokees. It's off calendar because when we celebrated with them in the spring, very busy time in the midst of Cherokee Days at the National Museum of the American Indians. Great event, great location. But for those of you who are involved in at-large gatherings, you know that that in of itself can take up an entire day. And the feeling was, let's go back to DC directly to that organization for a standalone gathering. So if you see that on social media and you're wondering why are they back in DC, that's the reason. Looking forward to a great weekend there. And I think it's going to be in Reston, Virginia, and we can get those details for those that are in the area. We'll keep putting it out on Facebook to make sure people know. But thank you for the opportunity to serve. That's the conclusion of my remarks, Kevin. I'd always answer questions, although I know you all always have a really full and great agenda.
No, Chief, I don't. So I'll shortly open it for questions if you'd like to ask the Chief, or we'll just go to the Deputy Principal Chief, Brian Warner.
Well, hello, Kevin, and
wow.
see on to God. Hello, everyone. It's good to see everybody, and I think I just appreciate our chief. He always gives us a good rundown of what's going on, and it's good to see everyone here. As he spoke early on, while I was driving, I heard him say he's keenly interested in hearing from you guys to see how you think this is going, and that's kind of my interest. In part, we've been doing this for a while. I love to hear ideas and other things, and see if we're serving this committee and you serving this committee is meeting the standards that you feel need to be met. One of the things, I'll be really brief in my remarks today. Chief did a really wonderful job of covering a lot of the things that we've got going. One of the things that him and I talk about a lot, though, and that is how, what's Cherokee Nation's role and everything across the United States, and how can we help build an idea of improving and building in the lives of human capital, that mankind. What are we going to do with the youth of today? How are we protecting our elders? Are we gleaning from our elders? And are we really, it's one thing to have, we talk about all of our capital projects, building these buildings, but today we know more than ever, it seems, since through the pandemic and other things, maybe even if the pandemic doesn't happen, we still see this. Communication lines are different today with different generations, and I'm really interested in making sure that we build the kind of people that we need for the future. And I know that's the whole idea behind education. That's the whole idea behind public education. And as Chief mentioned here, it's been under attack here in the state of Oklahoma, but I am a result of public education. I never fault anybody anywhere. I got a lot of education in the shed row of many of the barns of the racetracks all over the United States. That was one type of education. But how can we take our common sense values, our Cherokee community values, and you're going to hear more and more and more from me about these community values, because they are tailoring the model that we want to look and use. Chief talks about, we want to see measurements. We want to see an assessment of how are our programs doing, and can we take the data that we've collected over the years, and can we use that data to help drive some of our strategic decisions? Can we take a look at this? Can we experiment without having to take an entire year to see something? Can we take these numbers and figure out why is something happening? And so that's what we're doing. But at the heart of that model is our language. And right outside of that becomes our Cherokee community values. So these are important, and they're really all, when I read these community values, it's all about building up an individual that has that character, that has that integrity, that has that punctuality, that has the ability to understand that accountability is very much a two-way street. And so that we want to make sure that we keep our vision, we keep our focus on the Creator. But in that term, he takes care of that periphery. But really what I'm hearing a lot of out there is people want to see us make sure that our resources are going into the right area, making sure that our return on that investment is there. And sometimes our return on investment is, am I visiting with my elders enough? Am I going out? Am I sitting with them and taking those days, taking those hours to really hear what's going on in their lives? Am I listening to the kids? Am I listening defensively, or am I listening in a manner that I'm taking all of that in? So I think these are some of the things that have been on my mind. Our at-large community, I spent a good portion of the morning this morning talking to some at-large citizens. They are out on the West Coast and had some ideas, some concerns, nothing major concerns, but all built around that idea of how are we going to increase human capital? How are we going to increase the human skills that we see that are debilitating across the board? And what's the role of the Cherokee Nation? And I think everything that the chief has tailored, before, and everything that he's tailoring right now leads us into that role where we can start to see some benefit of that idea of, that it starts with the individual. That individual affects the family affects the community affects the overall well-being of what we are. And that's a public health function. So just super excited to see everyone. Really just want to listen and hear any ideas, concerns, and things that you all have going on. So Kevin, Wado, and thank you to each of our committee members for being here today.
Well, no, Deputy, we certainly appreciate everything that you and Chief Hoskin have done over the last 4 years and kept a lot of us safe and tried to keep all of us safe. And we're definitely more well connected, I think, than we had been. Anyway, I would like to say that Wade McAllister, the other advisory committee member, is on board with us, Dr. McAllister. So he's combing over his surgery hair right now, probably because I'm sure he's had a cap on all day. But thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. If I may, I know Chief just asked if we had a question. I was trying to get to my unmute button right as you were transitioning to Deputy Chief, but he mentioned the new health facilities in the hospital and all that. I know down here in Houston, we're struggling to get staff to staff our hospitals. That's one of our big issues right now. We're even this far out after the pandemic, we still have a staffing shortage. What is Cherokee Nation doing with their health services to try to avoid that, or what are you doing to get things staffed up there?
Yeah, that is an absolute great question, and it's our biggest challenge. I mean, frankly, we're in a position now to build buildings, and doesn't mean it's an easy task, and there's a lot of thought that goes into design and planning and sustainability, but that turns out to be relatively easier than the other piece, which is workforce. And workforce takes the form of great doctors like Dr. McAllister, but as you know, Dr. McAllister, it's a range of people. I mean, it is all sorts of professionals and then support people. And if it's challenging in Houston, one of the big metro areas of the country where there's a great deal in terms of higher education, you can imagine it's challenging elsewhere. And in rural Oklahoma, it's even more daunting at times. So here's what we're doing. It seems to me we have short-term and long-term ways that we're addressing this. The short term is keeping up with the market. And this is something the Deputy Chief and I talk about a lot and sort of internally and with our health team is, are we at the top of the market in terms of recruiting and being able to pay and incentives like retention bonuses, and then incentives like student loan help for healthcare professionals. That's one really short-term thing. But we're all competing though, right, for the same finite group that comes out of this healthcare pipeline, and we're competing in a state in which, just like any state, there's the private sector. There's some level of government healthcare through the state, very, very minimal, and then of course you have some federal presence with the Veterans Administration. But then you have a lot of tribes that are doing really the best healthcare work in terms of investment and I think innovation in the state. And you've got universities as well, which is of course government or quasi-government. It's a lot of players in an area of the country in which the population's relatively lower, the need's still great, in some ways even greater disproportionately. So we're all competing for the same person sometimes, but we have to stay on the edge of a compensation package. So short term, that's what we do, and it's sort of a daily effort to make sure that we do it. We're getting ready to, and I'll give you just a little sneak preview. The Deputy Chief and I are going to announce a comprehensive wage study that we've been doing at the Cherokee Nation for years that actually is going to lift about 80% of the workforce into higher wage rates. And that's actually thousands of healthcare workers, because what we found is we just weren't doing our jobs, and we have to take ownership over it and making sure pay is competitive, not just healthcare, but elsewhere. So I say all that long-winded explanation about the short term to tell you that that's really something we do every day, and we have to. medium and longer term, the medical school. I mean, Deputy will correct me if I'm wrong. I think this May we'll have our first class of doctors coming out of the Cherokee Nation Medical School with Oklahoma State University. Those graduates are not going to solve the doctor deficit in Northeast Oklahoma, but they're going to help. And more importantly, it is the first of what will be a continual pipeline of graduates graduating in rural Oklahoma, practicing within, I think, the greatest healthcare system in Indian country, Cherokee Nations, learning to be doctors in that environment. And then statistics say that they'll stay here or in the region. And of course, we're making working here a better and better proposition through quality of life and compensation and facilities. So I think that's a good medium and long-term strategy. Now, that's doctors. We also work with nursing schools. One other thing we've done, though, is we looked at one of our biggest gaps, and that is behavioral health, which runs a lot of different areas of healthcare, and it should, because it's important, and it ought to frankly inform just about everything we do in healthcare. We have some gaps, whether it's drug addiction counselors or whether it's folks working in other capacities in behavioral health. So what we did is we took $5 million from our opioid industry settlements, a $100 million package the deputy chief and I worked with the council on, including about $73 million for new drug treatment centers. We set aside $5 million into an endowment to in perpetuity, forever fund full scholarships for people that want to go become behavioral health professionals and then come work for the Cherokee Nation. Now, it's just starting. You'll hear about some of the new scholarship recipients probably in the coming weeks or months. By the way, that's open to at-large citizens, too. I mean, if anybody that's Cherokee wants to come home and help, we need them. That is another medium to longer term strategy. There's a lot of structural problems in the healthcare labor force in the country that we could talk a lot about, and people more expert than I am could talk about. But we labor under those, and we do, I think, the very best we can. But just like the compensation study, and just like what Deputy Chief was saying earlier, we have to step back and kind of assess. When we don't step back and assess, then we lose periods of times, months or years, in which we aren't on the cutting edge of pay and compensation. And that's one thing I think we've learned in the first term, is this sort of being a little more introspective and self-critical and analytical about our approach. But it's informing what we're doing in the second term, which is why I'm excited about this compensation study that I think is going to help us compete in the healthcare market. But then that gets us back to the bigger issue that is competing for the same person. Bottom line, I think, is we need more. We need this generation of Cherokees coming up to go into the healthcare profession, and we need to help them do it. We need to give them incentives, and then we need to give them reasons to come work for us. And then we need people that are much more knowledgeable than me about these problems to be contributing. Fortunately, we have those, but we need all we can get, including you, Wade. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do it, Chief. Anyone else? Okay, well, next, I see that Tribal Counselor Julia Coate has joined us. She changed her last name to iPhone on this for this meeting, but we would like to hear from her. And congratulations on your reelection.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm not going to turn my camera on because I am in the middle of a commute right now, so I'm kind of not wanting to hold my phone up and drive at the same time. But anyway, thank you very much, Kevin, and everyone, for your congratulations on a new term and everything. We've got a bunch of new people on council, 4 new people, and I'm really excited to be serving with all of them. I'm excited to be continuing to serve with this administration. And I just want to say again that I think that some really great things have been happening for the at-large people. And I know that with Councilor Kidwell, who I really love serving with, that more great things are coming down the pike. I don't know if he's talked about the mutual assistance project that is now underway. We're not really guiding that. We have a board of directors in place now at this time, and they kind of are running with the ball, but we will definitely be checking in with them and keeping abreast of what they're coming up with and helping to support them in any way that we can. And I'm really excited as well about some of the volunteer programs that are being headed up by former Councilor Sean Crittenden and our Deputy secretaries of state that will be confirmed soon, Kanan Duncan and Tara Lee Montgomery, and Deputy Chief Warner, I think, is very involved in this initiative as well. And so that's a great opportunity for at-large citizens to continue to make connections with the folks at home and with each other across the country. And this kind of building bridges through working together through volunteerism is something that it's just been a gleam in my eye for a long time. And it's really wonderful to hopefully see this coming to fruition as well. So it's just an exciting time, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And I really want to, commend the liaisons that are part of this project as well, who are also a very, very integral part of keeping the at-large citizens in the network and informed and of bringing their concerns back to us and back to CCO. And so these kinds of circular and reciprocal relationships are just what our tribal culture is all about. And so lots of good things happening. And thank you very much, Kevin.
Councillor Waddell. Now Councillor Kidwell has been waiting patiently. He was, I think, the first one at the meeting. So we appreciate that.
Well, in the Coast Guard, they used to say, if you're not early, you're late. So I wanted to hop on here as quick as I could. No, I know that these gatherings are really about hearing from the from the at-large and taking some concerns and hearing what's going on. I want to thank Chief, Deputy Chief, obviously, and our at-large folks for all being on here and spending this time. Delegate TE as well, who I'm sure we'll hear from soon. We've been already 40 minutes on this call. We haven't heard from the at-large folks yet. But before we jump in on that, I wanted to just kind of piggyback on what Julia, Dr. Coates said earlier. Man, this is an exciting time. There are some great things going on right now from as Chief mentioned earlier, the Gadoogie Corps. That's great. The mental health, $5 million mental health scholarship. I know some people, some folks have already applied to that. That is out. That's going. Bringing those people back to work for the Cherokee Nation is a great way to do that. In the military, we called the payback tour, so as to speak. So I did one of those myself, and I think that's a great way to do it. It's a busy time, really, these last couple of months for the council. We're going over a $3+ billion budget. I'm trying to digest all that information right now. Want to make sure that we're doing the Cherokee administration and Cherokee people right by focusing in on that and making sure we're doing it proper. We got a lot of appointments coming in. Don't see any problem with any of those. Those are going to be great. We're going to get all that taken care of. I had an opportunity, as a side note, to meet with our designated Cherokee Nation businesses recruiter in person. Her name is Dana Robinson Hall. She lives up in Denver, Colorado. She had come down to Tulsa for some C&B business. I was able to go have a cup of coffee with her yesterday. She is the one, as we go out to all these at-large events, and we try to get folks to come back and work for the tribe and apply to some of these Cherokee federal and C&B jobs that are out there and all over the world, actually. She's that one point of contact. It was great to sit down with her and hear her. She is a Cherokee citizen, by the way. And so it was really good to kind of sit down and talk about her. And if anybody wants more information on that, I can tell you where to get. I want to take a lot of your time. I just want you to know that she's out there, and I met with her personally, and she is going to be unbelievable for at-large citizens to really work with and have that be that one point of entry. A couple of things that have hit my hit my inbox that I want to kind of give out to the advisory folks, and so I can kind of spread the word, is just reminding our at-large citizens out there and our community group members that at-large citizens are eligible for that Cherokee Nation scholarship. Now, I know there's there's two different ones there. There's the Cherokee Nation Foundation, which we want everyone to apply to, and we're growing that pot of money. And I think we're going to be up into triple digits now just in the foundation for at-large citizens. But that Cherokee Nation scholarship is important as well. You need to be Pell Grant eligible to apply for that. But I just saw the numbers the other day. We've got more than 1,300 at-large citizens on scholarship right now. And that is just amazing. It's great to see. You see the focus, you see it on the behalf of the administration, you see it on behalf of the council, and just reminding those folks out there when you get a chance that they are eligible for that. Now it is income based, obviously, as a Pell Grant, but they can apply. And those people who are not eligible based on income for that, please send them to the Cherokee Nation Foundation and also to the Jack Baker Services Scholarship that Dr. Coates has available. That's also a very good opportunity. But I just wanted to remind folks of that. We do have those the Texas meetings coming up real soon. We'll be down in the New Braunfels area on the 16th of September, and then over in the Houston area on the 17th. Looking forward to those. Healthcare obviously is a big deal, and I know that Mr. Nelson had sent a couple emails earlier this month, a few weeks back, and we talked about healthcare. Listen, our healthcare folks, and Chief talked about this in his inaugural speech, and I know that he'll be talking about this most likely in the State of the Nation address that he's going to have. But Cherokee Nation's obviously looking at virtual health and telehealth and different things. That there are some hurdles there, but they are actively being looked at by the Cherokee Nation healthcare folks and leadership as a way to further assist at-large citizens. I know you heard Chief talk about that a little bit, and Deputy Chief talks about it, but I just want to reiterate on that the Cherokee Nation is looking into it. The healthcare navigators that you've seen information out there, they have done just a knockdown job. I have gotten email after email after call about how well that team has done to help at-large citizens, not just engaging the Cherokee Nation healthcare system, but engaging healthcare systems in their local area that they may not have been privy to. And I know that they've done some work down in Dallas with the CC&T group, and been on different Zoom meetings and conferences and different things, and they've been very helpful. Just remember that they're out there. The last thing I'll talk about real shortly, but before I kind of pass the baton here, and Dr. Coates brought it up a little bit about this at-large mutual assistance program that we just recently got going, and it's taken us a little bit to get here. But let me tell you, man, I'm so excited about it, and if you'll allow me just to kind of give a brief overview of it just for a second. You'll hear more about it as we go. We just recently got the board of directors established on that. It's Mr. Nelson will understand this, and many of you from any of those who are veterans or served in the military. Whenever I was in the Coast Guard, we had what was called Coast Guard Mutual Assistance, and really what that was a nonprofit separate from but associated with the Coast Guard in general that was there to help Coast Guard members in need where big Coast Guard couldn't help out. We took this idea to Chief, Deputy Chief, other folks a little while back. And everybody thought this was a great idea. And I know Chief is on board, Deputy Chief's on board. It's made up right now of board members. Chief had selected one, I had selected one, Dr. Coates had selected one. So it's makeup of 3 right now. And man, we just got this thing stood up, and it's basically and we really, it'll do no harm to any services already offered by Cherokee Nation for at-large citizens. This is only for at-large citizens. It's called Cherokee At-Large Mutual Assistance. And it is its own nonprofit set up by itself. And it will not duplicate anything that is already out there. So, for example, it won't get into scholarships, just as an example. But it is there to provide things to at-large citizens that their counterparts, their district or their reservation-centered citizens might already receive, focusing especially on elders and veterans. So whether it be burial assistance, whether it be emergency funding, whether it be anything that you can really think of, we're hoping that those folks get into. And as Dr. Coates mentioned earlier, we're going to allow the board to kind of move out on that. The bylaws, we all wrote the bylaws and we all okayed all that and got them together. So we're looking forward to them really getting going. I know that Chief and Deputy Chief have agreed to help that mutual assistance program with some initial funding and possibly some people and some FTE and to really get that thing going. But it's important because it is going to start out locally, obviously around the contiguous areas of the Cherokee Nation, because we need to really prove the concept. We need to make sure that this is going to be able to serve itself and it's going to be able to grow as we see it. I see it expanding out, especially through our at-large tarot vendors to do things, and our community groups as the central location by which to help this mutual assistance program expand. So hopefully, my dream is that it's nationwide and it's focused through through this advisory group and through the mutual assistance or through the community groups, and this thing grows and grows and grows, and it's going to come off of funding. The mutual assistance thing on the Coast Guard is big because it allows Coast Guard members to donate to this, and it's a tax-free donation. We're a 501c3, so we've already got a few at-large citizens lined up to give. I've got 2 lined up at this point who are able to give $10,000 a year to this. I know CNB we're going to hope CNB helps us out, and we hope the government side, community, CCO, and everyone else on the government side helps out. So that's just that in a nutshell. I don't have any nuts and bolts because we're going to allow the directors there, the board of directors, to really take this and run with it, with the bylaws already being set. As a matter of fact, in about 2 hours, I have an online meeting with them, with the board of directors, and I'll attend. It'll be their second meeting. I'll hear how things are going there and how we can be helpful to help them expand and grow, as much as they want to, and as much as the at-large folks would have them to. So, like I said, exciting time, a busy time, man. This is just busy for all of us, but it is a good busy. It is something that I love to do. I'm enjoying this. I want to be helpful. I try to get to everything that I possibly can and return every phone call and return every email, and hopefully we're doing what you guys as the at-large advisory committee and at-large constituents would have us be doing. So please email me directly, reach out. I'll be as helpful as I possibly can. And if I can't, I'll go find the answer and get back to you. But with that being said, I will pass it off there, Kevin. I know I already spoke for too long. So please, I'm happy to answer any questions if need be. I'm happy to stay on after to answer questions then if need be. I know we need to get moving on the agenda and meetings, but happy to hang around. And I will do that. Thank you, Kevin.
I know, Counselor, and yes, this will run past our 1 hour limit, but those of you can stay. We're still going to try to conduct our business, but I'm excited about this new at-large nonprofit committee that you're talking about, and can't wait to see how that turns out. Because I know that we do hear a lot from the at-large that they want equal services And this is, I think, a great step towards that. So fantastic. Next, we'll have Delegate T. And I would like to say before Delegate T comes on, that when Mr. Kidwell, Tribal Councilor Kidwell, had said, we haven't heard from the Cherokee citizens yet. I just, this is an advisory committee, and so we expect that to be a two-way thing. So I think with all of the upfront knowledge that we give them, they can go out and talk to their prospective organizations, as well as getting feedback on that. So I expect it to be a give and take kind of thing. So anyway, any questions for Councilor Kidwell or Councilor Coates? Okay, Delegate Teehee, we'd like to hear from you, please.
Hi, everyone. This is Kim. I apologize up front. I had a noon event that I'm at now, so you're going to hear background noise. I've also turned my camera off so that I don't freeze up on you. I'm kind of walking around trying to get great reception here. So I apologize in advance for anything. So government relations continues to do a lot of hard work. Some of our big victories so far during the state legislative session here in Oklahoma has been to extend our tribal tobacco and card tax compacts by a year. This was a uphill battle to get these bills through the state legislature. They flew through the House and the Senate. The Governor Stitt, as predicted, he vetoed those bills, and then in special session, the state legislature overrode the vetoes. So that's where we are now, which is that was a good thing. That was a big victory for us. It also is a testament to, I think, the influence that the tribes have in the state. Obviously, at Cherokee Nation, we keep strong relationships with both Republican and Democrat legislators. We keep solid relationships with the House and Senate leaders in our delegation, and I have to say our relationships in those two chambers could not be stronger. And so what you're seeing play out is sort of, the governor, attacking the Tulsa public school system, as Chief talked about earlier, other areas, also attacking some of his own in his own party. And so I think that benefited us in these battles. But we continue to work on these issues. We know there's going to be a study reviewing tribal compacts in Oklahoma, and we fully anticipate be a big part of that. As Chief mentioned, we've had dignitary visits. We had the Administration for Native Americans Commissioner Patrice Kunesh visit us in our Durban Feeling Language Center this week. We also hosted the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to our reservation this week, and then we will be hosting the U.S. Ambassador at Large for Cyberspace and Digital Policy. That's a new ambassadorship position, so I'm glad that he's made one of his first visits to be at Cherokee Nation's reservation. We have a lot of events coming up, as Chief mentioned earlier. We just came off of the heels of the inauguration, and then our staff are working tirelessly on the Labor Day weekend. And obviously the highlight there is the Chief's State of the Nation address. If you're able to join us that weekend, I encourage you to do so, but bring some clothes that will keep you cool because it's expected to be a hot one. We also have some upcoming meetings that Chief and Deputy Chief are participating in. Deputy Chief serves as the co-chair for the CDC Travel Advisory Committee, and he'll be traveling to Green Bay, Wisconsin in September after Labor Day. Similarly, Chief Hoskins serves on the HHS Travel Advisory Committee, and he will be traveling to Rapid City, South Dakota in September as well. We are also participating on these tribal consultations. As the Chief mentioned, he's scheduled to give comments for the tribal treaty tribal consultation that the Department of the Interior and the White House are hosting. Similarly, there will be an upcoming tribal consultation on native language preservation, which we will also participate in. And on the federal side of things, obviously for us right now, we're in an August recess in Congress. The Senate's coming back September 5th, and the House is coming back on September 12th. We're gearing up for just appropriations. That's the main thing right now. September will be consumed with FY24 spending discussions, appropriations. The government funding expires at the end of September. And you hear playing out on all the news every evening, the big divide between the Republicans and Democrats in Congress. And a government shutdown is very likely. We know that we need a CR prior to the end of the government funding expiring. So you'll see that playing out as well. On delegate, we continue to push on delegate. As you know, we had a historic hearing last November in the House Rules Committee that when the House flipped majority from Democrat to Republican majority, the House Rules Committee that has jurisdiction over this issue flipped leadership as well. So Tom Cole, who's a Chickasaw citizen, is now the chair of that Rules Committee, and he's asked for our help to educate his caucus about delegate. We focused a lot of attention on leadership, committee staff, majority previously, and now our focus has shifted to the Republican majority, their staff and such. And so we've had staff level engagement during this August recess, and we'll be teeing up opportunities for us to travel to DC after the Labor Day holiday. So I apologize that my presentation was short, but I wanted to put these on your radar screen. Also, I want to mention real quickly, there are some reauthorization bills that are going through that we've been working on. One is the National Defense Authorization Act that authorizes our government contracting portfolio annually. We've working closely on that. We were able to get the Indian housing reauthorization bill included in that package. We're also working on farm bill priorities. This is a big issue for us. And so that those appear to be moving to after the Labor Day break. Kevin, with that, I'm going to turn it over, and I apologize, but I am walking into this event right now. So I'm going to have to also sign off here. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to see your faces earlier.
Wado, delegate. And everyone that has spoken so far are hardworking individuals, and they're very wrapped up in making sure what's best for the Cherokee people. So, wado. So next, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of our agenda. I would like to say the $25,000 grant that most everyone that applied received, and I think it was every organization at this point at large had received that community impact grant money. I just want for you to refresh your memory that it's all of this receipts are due to CCO by September of next year, and not the money has to be spent by the end of September of next year. Okay. So, and you can use that to, buy arts and crafts from Cherokee artists. You can pay Cherokee Nation artists and craftsmen and historians to travel. CCO provides one trip a year. I know the Atlarge history course has kicked off once again after a few years. And sorry, my video is not on. Anyway, and so that has been a great success. It has begun. They're Will Chavez, who is one of the senior folks at the Cherokee Phoenix, is going to start teaching it as well. And David Fowler, who is, I think, the regional Oklahoma historian for the Oklahoma Historical Society, as well as Captain Foreman Gray, are going to be traveling to different areas, pushing this out. So bear with us as we get that back out to you, the people, because I know that the history course is probably the most talked about thing other than the language courses. And I would like to say that the language course, I don't have Udawadis, Howard Payton, on here today, but they're working closely right now with Elizabeth McKee and the Kansas City Cherokee community to start that very soon. So they're working closely on that. And then we're going to be having a meeting to reach out to those of you that have expressed interest for your organizations as well. So expect that soon. So as Councilor Tidwell said, the at-large calendar is going to be for the New Bronzeville on September the 16th from 10 to 2, Houston 12 to 4, and then October the 21st is in Anaheim, October the 22nd, San Diego, and then Arizona will be in November. We'll talk about that at another time. The at-large event attendances have gone way up. We have increased our outreach as far as mailers and phone blasts to get the word out. And so we're seeing 50 to 80% growth in all of our at-large picnics is what I think we call them. And so we're working on that right now, and that's going great. We put it out on social media. We send out emails. The Gadugi portal has helped us out a great deal because we have you know, a fresher database than we had previously, because typically people will get a card, their card, and then you won't hear from them again. And so the Gadugi portal, so if they move, change their phone number, change their email address, then you don't know what that is unless they call us and tell us and fill out a form. But now the Gadugi portal allows you to do it, you know, on your mobile device at any time. So if you want to stay connected, and the Gadugi portal does other great things, but more specifically, it allows us to focus a message to just you in your location for issues that are important to you, and not just go to randomly to everyone in every Cherokee Nation citizen. So when you get an email from us, then it is specifically for you or your area. Okay. Let's see. So we had opened it up to potlucks during the last meeting. There's been an uptick in COVID recently, COVID cases. And so we're going to shut that down to offering catered meals only. We can still have it indoors if you desire. Registration always needs to be indoors, by the way. So even if you have an outdoor picnic, you want to try to have something available for, because they have sensitive equipment for the registration photo ID folks. Okay. So anyway, we will not be doing potlucks. We will pay for the catering. Okay. So Tammy Miller will continue to work with each of your organizations to make that happen. And we would love to see, you know, locally owned businesses be the ones that cater to our events. We also need to strongly request that each of your organizations work arduously to dig up veterans that we can honor at these events. And you know, we can honor up to 2 veterans per event. We can honor 1 elder at the event. So we have shared with you over the last year and a half those folks that have signed in to the events in your area. So we want you to use those sign-in sheets where people have identified as vets to try to reach out and make contact with those folks. The Veterans Center, the Veterans Affairs Office has has vowed to help as well. So let's do what we can to get veterans honored at each one of these events, because it's a big deal. Okay, well, I talked about the history outreach and the language outreach. As far as the language outreach goes, that goes over a few weeks, but one full weekend will be at your location, and that will be in person. So we'll have 12 hours of training online, 16 hours in person, 12 hours follow up, and so your organization will incur no costs for that, and that's something that that language as well as Tammy Miller are working with the organization to help pay for cover those costs. We're so now we're at the, well, I'm going to bring up one more thing, and that is the CCO draft policies. So out there on CherokeesAtlarge.org is a link to CCO's website that has the draft of our CCO policies. We've had policies not in a combined way for everyone to access previously at CCO. And so I have worked with the administration to gather those policies together, make sure they're up to date, and then so we have released a draft policy. And I want to emphasize draft because we want your feedback to go through those policies and see what you think that ought to be added or modified or suggested changes. Okay, so again, CherokeesAtlarge.org has a link to those. Okay, so that's what I had about that. So now I'd like to open it up for any type of questions or anything.
Kevin, it's Patsy. I have a question.
Yes.
When I solicit input for the agenda, this time I got 3 questions regarding grants that relate to the CCO draft policies. And I think I provided those to you, but I feel that I need to be able to give some kind of answer to the people who ask those questions, or to be able to say it's under review, one or the other. I mean, I'd like to give some kind of feedback.
Okay, and I had those on my original agenda as a line item. I thought I had those in my notes, so I'm just looking through those. Would you refresh my memory of what those
Yes,
are?
scroll down to them. Okay, the first one is startup funding available for newly forming at-large organizations.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so on those CCO draft policies has the specific language to talk about those startup issue funding, as well as the new organizations requirements. Okay, and I've spoken to folks that are beginning new organizations and have tried to make it clear that it takes several years to build an organization and build a relationship with CCO and with the Cherokee Nation in order for them to qualify for funding. And so and we do the exact same thing with new organizations on the reservation as well. So
just because an organization hasn't received it yet, and a new organization hasn't received it yet, it doesn't mean that they won't receive it.
Right. As far as the funding, again, the policies should make clear that there won't be funding for the first 3 years minimum to see how you build the organization and how that is going to operate. So we have to build that relationship for 3 years before we actually fund anything.
I don't think that's in the draft right now.
Okay.
So,
all right, I will make a note of that then.
Okay, thank you. The next one was will the annual grants of either 1,000 or 2,000 continue? And that's of course because we have a bigger grant right now is the reason for the question.
Right. Yes, the 2,000 is an annual stipend for the a grant, and that grant has no stipulation or no reporting requirements.
So pretty soon this fall, people should begin to get information about that.
Yes, and that will you will each organization will contact us at cco-grants@cherokee.org, and after October the 1st, because our new grant season begins then, we're going to have an on-res grant kickoff meeting later this month. And after that, we will send out those applications to each organization.
Okay. So they don't really just have to independently initiate it. You're gonna have something that will draw their attention to it's time now.
Right.
Okay.
We'll
Thank
do
you.
that.
And I think there was one more. This has to do with the $50,000 grants and a question of whether or not they're available for at-large community buildings. And I know that in the draft policies, there's a reference to a limited waiver for good cause. And the question is whether or not, because it seems to be mostly addressed to in reservation, but could historic grants, say in the homeland outside the reservation, qualify for that waiver?
Okay, so I'm not aware of a $50,000 grant for at large for anything, or even on the reservation. I'm aware that we sent the $25,000 grant last year for community impact. Other than that, I don't know of other grant opportunities that run through CCO or for anything like that.
Okay, where that was in chapter 8, community buildings, beginning on page 28 of the draft policies, if you want to take that.
All right. Well, I will just say that capital projects money isn't currently available for at-large organizations.
Okay, those were the questions. I appreciate you addressing them.
Yep. I apologize for not putting it right here on the agenda. So,
well, you knew I was going to ask.
Yes, I did. Actually, I had it right under my CCO draft policies, and anyway, so your questions kind of spurred me on that. So I appreciate that. And Patsy is very good at keeping me responsive on those things. So.
Well, and I appreciate that you are.
Yeah. And I would like to, Sarah Stewart, who is going to come on board on Facebook. She's Bailey Stewart. She is going to be our special projects officer, and she's coming on board September the 6th. And she will be working, I know Lindy Conover worked with at large to help me out with that communications. And she will be full-time employee for us, and she will be working on spend much of her time focusing on at-large issues and including the sister community connections, and try to get that reestablished with everyone. We still have a few that do that, but we need to kind of rekindle that fire. Pam Bakke is on here, and she is also our cultural outreach coordinator, and she is the main contact for at-large cultural needs, including interfacing with the CN National Treasures. So any of those presentations that you desire, if you, rather than us just send a list, because sometimes that list fluctuates based on availability of national treasures, as well as any other type of issues, health-wise, perhaps, with the national treasures. So if you'll just send us what discipline you want that you're seeking for your groups, then we will be glad to help you out there. Also, I want to remind
Kevin,
you.
So
I'm
Kevin,
sorry.
I have a question on that. So I just want to clarify and make sure I'm crystal clear on this. So
Okay.
if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that Cherokee Nation or CCO will provide one national treasure a year coming out to at-large at no cost to us? Is that what I understand?
Let me clarify that. Our one trip a year can either be a national treasure or it can be another artisan or craftsman that might not be a national treasure. It might be Pam Bakke, who should be a national treasure, but she isn't currently. But anyway, I digress. So you can select, say, I want a national treasure to come out, and yes, we will pay for that. Your $25,000 also can be used to have additional visits from a national treasure or whomever you like. And it doesn't have to be just an artisan. It can be a historian as well.
So the process is we reach out to Pam and say, okay, for our programming for January of 2024, we want a speaker, and we work through her. Is that how the process works?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I will also remind you that Donnie Squirrel, I'm pretty sure everyone on this committee, on this meeting knows Donnie Squirrel, but she continues to be an advisor to the Cherokee Nation in terms of spirituality and Cherokee values, and as well as several committee appointments for the administration. So he is the one that a lot of people reach out to for those types of issues. So we encourage you to reach out to her for that. And Donnie is on here. Donnie, you have anything to add?
I don't, just that I really like hearing from our committee and their thoughts and ideas and what they bring from the people they visit with. I think that's it's just so important that the chief receive these messages, and I just appreciate being a part of Gadugi among our people and the work everybody is doing, whether it's in the communities, community groups, CCO, anyone at Cherokee Nation. The Gadugi Corps has really, I think, will make way for even a greater coming together to do the work we need to do. You know, one of the directions from the Creator, from our ancestors, is to not only help one another as Cherokees, but the entire world. You know, that's quite a tall order, but because we are living in different areas of the country, we are actually physically in a good position to do that, to make a difference. And so I think Gadugi Corps is going to really help, not only here in the Cherokee Nation, the jurisdictional area, but across the country, maybe to encourage our people to volunteer where they are as well, and to just try to bring our values of communal values to the country and maybe to the world. So wherever we can influence, great or small, I think is a good thing. So I'm real excited about that. I had a great visit this week with Mike Webb from the Sacramento area. The relationship that group has established with Marble City Community Group is just incredible. I sat with both, and there's such a strong kinship there. I mean, literally, the one person from the Marble City groups talked about how much, you know, she's basically the only person in her family that's left except for a brother. And so the people that she reaches out to in terms of this couple with the Sacramento group, she said, this is my family now. And so it's kinship and connection on a deep, deep level. And that's what I hoped to see when I came on board 11 years ago. And one of the projects they worked on was acknowledging John Rolandridge, I believe, who started the Sacramento Bee, which is an incredible story in and of itself. But also, he was buried out in that area of Sacramento, but didn't have a grave stone marking. And so when the group there started working with Marble City about how to do a marker, the Marble City folks said, "We're from Marble City, marble," you know. And so I didn't know all this. And so they created a couple of headstones out of the marble from Marble City and shipped them out there. And then the local community in Sacramento had the wording put on. So this was a very incredibly and touching. These are a couple of stories about, you know, the kinship, the loss of family and embracing new family, and then acknowledging the past with Mr. Roland Ridge and working together. And now he's honored with, you know, by the people that live in the Sacramento area, our people there, and our people in Marble City with material from Marble City. So these connections are very strong and sacred and ancient. And I feel like good things are happening and things are coming back. And I feel a restoration is coming into being, and it's needed to happen for a very, very long time. And so, you know, with Cherokee, you can't keep us down. You know, we'll always get back up. And so that, I think that's just what I wanted to share. And I just appreciate being a part of it, and the relationships I have with all of you. And I mean all of you, here, there, and everywhere, are very dear to me. And so I'm proud to be a part of this. Widow.
Widow, Donnie, Widow. I would, and so now I'd like to open it up to new business. Does anyone have any new business?
So I have a question that came up. So obviously Cherokee holiday is right around the corner. So some of the at-large people want to know, is there any way, is it going to be shown virtually? Can they see any of Cherokee holiday online?
Yes, there are many components that are going to be, just making sure I'm not muted, many components that are going to be live streamed. I know that I have spammed your email boxes once again with Jolly Gay wherever you are, but specifically this weekend, the one on Saturday is going to talk about an overview of the holiday, and they're going to talk about that component. So check out that Jolly Gay wherever we are series. But there's also a Cherokee Nation, I think it's Cherokee National Holiday website. Hang on one second, just verifying that. Yeah. So if you go to thecherokeeholiday.com, I'll put this in the chat. It is going to give you all of that information, but there are going to have some parts that are live streamed. Okay. The State of the Nation will be another one that was live streamed, of course, but other events too. So, and having Sarah Stewart come on in a couple of weeks is going to help with that communications, as I said earlier, including reaching out about this advisory meeting. And so I apologize for those of you that I've let down on that communication and not made it a priority. And anyway, I vow to do better. So other questions, comments?
Kevin,
Yes.
I have one more. Did I understand you to say that an organization needs to specifically request the language class rather than it being rolled out?
Yes. Yeah.
And would that be through Tammy?
No, that would be through, why don't you just send it to me and I will forward it to the language department.
Okay.
Because it's several people over there.
And
Because
also,
part of
go
the
ahead.
problem is that we tried to roll it out earlier and some organizations weren't ready for it yet. And we want to make sure that we have decent participation to make that, a good project, not fiscally worthwhile, but, language wise. So the best use of our resources, I think.
And then also the history class, I see that it's rolling out, and You know, we've sent a couple of emails to Catherine. Is there another procedure for doing that?
Not that I know of. You can, if you send one to Catherine and copy me and perhaps Travis Owens.
Okay.
Stand by and I will look for Travis Owens worked for CNB. Catherine worked for CNB. And so let me look up that email address. So it's Travis, stand by and I'll copy it and paste it over there. Here's his email address in the chat as well. So
Thank you.
Entertainment. I said CNB, but in entertainment. Okay.
Whatever.
A lot.
And so I just really, really want to express my gratitude and appreciation to Cherokee Nation for the $25,000 grants. It's really been so helpful. I mean, obviously the money's helpful, but it's also given us the opportunity to really plan, to really organize. So there's so many benefits on so many levels. So I just want to say that was something that, you know, I had been asking for a long time for money for at-large groups. So it's just, you know, I can't express how it's really changed the dynamics in our group. And we are putting it to good use. And thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been a game changer for our organization.
Great. I will pass that along. And we sure appreciate that. Anything else? I do have that the next meeting will be Tuesday, December the 5th at 2 p.m. Central. Tuesday, December the 5th at 2 p.m. Central. And I'll make sure and send that. I'll broadcast that to everyone and post it on the Facebook page. Okay. And I'll be out for a couple of days, but I will make sure and post the video of this meeting by September the 1st. Okay. All right. Anything else? We appreciate your feedback. And I know it seems like a meeting where you just sit and listen, but I think it's valuable information for you to listen to everything that's going on so that you can share with your organizations. And I you know, that communication is two ways. So this is an opportunity for at-large. Other than the specific at-large meetings where you get to meet face-to-face with the chief, this is a great way for us all to interact and kind of see that we're all on the same page. So we're done for that. With that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Okay, do I second?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Any opposition to that? All right. Mado, everyone. Do the dog go hi.
Mado.
Mado. Go hi.